Hello and welcome to the Album of the Year podcast. My name is Marty, and here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chris Wright, right to my left. How are you, buddy?
Well, just keep legending on, as I always do. I love the man, the myth, the legend. I'm like, I thought you were the Sasquatch. Wasn't it? Weren't you the Polish?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if that makes me the man, the myth, the legend. I think that just makes me a big-ass Polak with size 15 shoes and a beard. If you want to say I'm this mythical creature, I'm cool with that. No,
I'm just kidding.
You're not that fucking cool, man.
Dude, you are pretty cool, dude.
Thank
Your
you,
Nickel
buddy.
City hat. I enjoyed it. One thing we should say, like we're recording this on a separate day from part one, so a little bit has gone on since we recorded the last episode.
It's true.
And one of those things was that we're in that weird 2-week period where we're both the same age because you just had your birthday.
That's right. I had my 40th birthday, which was on Saturday.
Two 40-year-olds you're listening to here. Officially, you're listening to the reminiscences of two old guys now.
We are fucking old, man. It's so crazy. It's really strange being 40, but then again, it's not so strange at all. Like, you know, you can't slow down the aging process. It's going to happen. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's like the last 40 years have just been kind of like, some stuff's happened, some good stuff, some bad stuff, and all of a sudden I'm 40. It's pretty wild.
It's better than the alternative, as they always say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
Not getting to turn 40. But I don't know. To me, when I turned 30, I was happy. Like everyone was like, "Oh God, we're 30! I can't believe it."
I loved my 30s, man.
Me too.
Like my 30s were great. My 20s were so dumb. Like my 20s were like, okay, so I'm an adult now. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know.
There's a lot of confusion and nonsense.
Exactly. And when you're 30, you're like, okay, I know. I'm this is my life now. Like, I'm cool with it. Like
stuff figured out.
Yeah.
Just get on with it.
I moved to Austin when I was 30, so that's kind of when. That's when I felt like I was in the most control of my life as an adult when I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Because, still some hard times there. But then again, I still, at the end of the day, I still understood myself and kind of my place in the world much, much better. So
I agree with that. And then 40, you just face down the specter of death. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I find myself having way more just depressing conversations with Courtney. I remember telling you about the one where I was like, everything is kind of like you can't even wake up and turn on the lights without supporting something fucking terrible that you whatever. And like Courtney was like, I don't want to have this conversation. I felt bad. I was like, look, Courtney, yes, it's a pessimistic viewpoint, but you just go out every day and you try to do something good, and Courtney works for a nonprofit. So she does a lot of good things with her job, as I've kind of alluded to. She could do something that could mean someone, the victim of sexual assault gets the support they need, or, something like that. So she can make direct impact like that. So yeah, it is what it is. We all wake up and we try to do the best we can to be good people, and that's what matters really. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to get
we're starting from the beginning with some wisdom from a middle-aged dude. I'm just kidding.
Well, and it's funny. So I'll just come out and say, so Courtney surprised me, and she got my mom and dad and her mom and her aunt all came from Tennessee and Houston and Florida to surprise me.
It was awesome.
It was amazing. I had no idea I thought it was going to be, so we had dinner and then we went to a bar. And at dinner, I thought it was going to be me and Courtney and my friend Kobe and my old roommate Ed. And that was going to be it. And so we get to the restaurant, and it was funny too, because we got there and the guy was like, "Are you here for the surprise party?" And I was like, Courtney was like, "Well, we're here for a birthday party." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" So they direct us back, and my mom and dad and Courtney's mom and her aunt were there, and I just freaked out, of course, and it was so amazing. And a day or two before, I think it was like Friday night or Saturday morning, she was like, "Hey, is your bathroom clean?" And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know. People might come over this weekend." And I'm like, "Who's going to come over? We're going to dinner and going to a bar. I don't know. Maybe you should just straighten up your bathroom." So I was like, "Okay, I'll make sure it's clean or whatever." And now I know,
because family attack.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have 2 cats, and my mom's very, very allergic to cats. So she couldn't really, they did come over yesterday just so they could see our place and stuff. And actually my mom was fine for the most part. And, she was good as long as she didn't touch our cats. And luckily they're shorter haired cats. So they're not they don't bother people too much that have allergies, but it ended up being awesome. Like we spent the whole day together yesterday, took them to that Motown exhibit at the LBJ.
Yeah, you were sending me some photos of that. I'm like,
very cool.
Still going on through to the end of the year. So definitely,
if you're in Austin, check that out. It's really awesome. And another awesome thing about that, yesterday was Free Museum Day in Austin. So it was completely free to go to LBJ.
Man.
It was great. Yeah. And they had like a couple bands playing outside too, which was kind of cool. Yeah, that was kind of neat. Well, the last band was actually just starting to tear down when we got there. So we didn't get to see anybody, but yeah, dude, it was really amazing. Like we walked in and they're like, "Oh, museum's free today. You can go to the Motown exhibit. You can go to the, And, since my parents grew up in Detroit around the time a lot of that music was being made, like, it was really special for them to see that. Like, I could tell that they were like, wow, this is incredible. Like, so that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And just so everybody knows, I did make it out to Marty's party. He had a later party.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry. Yeah, Chris was there.
It's like, he did invite me, guys. We are still actually friends.
Right. And yeah, with dinner, it's like, I like to go to this steakhouse every year for my birthday dinner called Austin Land and Cattle. And like, I invited some friends this year, but like, it's expensive. So I completely understood if some people didn't want to go. Like, I don't want you to be on the hook for like a $60 meal if you don't want it, or if you don't eat steak or something, whatever. So, but yeah, we had a big old bash at Nickel City, which is a really great, awesome kind of Midwestern, East Coast bar up on the East Austin. And it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I love meeting some of your other friends. And,
eating
conies and tater tots. And
they have a food truck at this spot called the Del Rey Cafe. And they do this like Detroit food, and they do buffalo food too. They had coney dogs, and they were pretty freaking. Chris bought me a coney dog.
Yeah, man.
And it was awesome. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Bought you a hot dog.
Yeah. Hey, man. Like I appreciate it. You don't have to buy me anything, man.
Just, it was fantastic. Well, I'm so happy to that you finally caught up with me. Just remember, in 2 weeks I'll be 41.
Yeah,
and then you'll be a little kid again.
What are you gonna do for your birthday?
Jack crap, dude.
Oh, come on. We gotta do something.
We'll record a podcast.
Okay. We do that all the time anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's fine. Happy birthday.
All right. Okay.
We'll figure something out.
All right. Okay.
I don't know. Like I told Steph, it's not that big of a deal anymore. I think you get on the other side of 40 and it's like,
I still like.
I do. No, I'm not. Dude, have a birthday party next year. I'm not telling you don't.
No, I'm saying have a party for you.
Yeah.
41 years old is a big deal.
All right, you convinced me. Big old party in my honor.
I'm DJing.
Yeah. I have a parade. That's what I think. It's just, I wasn't going to do anything, but I decided you're right, Marty. And so now there's going to be a parade. And
it's going to go through Cedar Park. And
it's just great.
It's going to stop at Raising Cane's, and there's going to be a Caniac combo waiting for you. And if you can't eat it all, I'll be there to finish whatever chicken fingers you don't want.
I think this is becoming a very self-serving idea. I'm the one getting the parade, bro. Like,
I get the chicken fingers, man. So, Chris is like, I want the chicken fingers. So, there's this like chicken chain that's kind of big in the South called Raising Cane's. They have them up north too. Courtney said they had one on Ohio State's campus as well, and it's just the chicken fingers there are pretty good. And it's like their menu is simple. Like that's all they have. And Chris and I will go eat there sometimes before recording or if we're just hanging out. And they have like the different combos are like based on how many chicken fingers you get. And I get the Caniac combo, which is like 100 chicken fingers and fries and all kinds of bullshit. It's really a party
platter. And he's just eating it.
It is.
He doesn't even touch him. He just like rams his face into it and just like eats it like an animal.
That's true. I just kind of like, I bring the plate up to my face and just basically, it's like Homer Simpson when he went to the seafood buffet or whatever. But
no, you just look over at him. He goes woof and it's all gone. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, cool. Chris, we were there once, and I got the Caniac combo, and it's like comes in this like huge, like kind of obscene like platter, and like kind of like what Chris explained, and I was like, yeah, man. I kind of felt weird because I was like, yeah, man, I eat a lot, and I do eat a lot. And Chris goes, it's okay, man. You're a big guy, and I was like, thanks, buddy. See, that's
I was calling you fat, but whatever. I'm just
I guess you didn't pick up on that subtext.
Yeah, I was telling you to go on a diet. Golly.
Yeah, you're a big guy.
Seriously, dude, you're like a basketball player or something. You want to eat 6 chicken fingers? None of my damn business.
Makes me jump higher.
Yeah, I'm sure that's all. I figure you were
get those
carbo loading.
Rebounds.
Yeah.
Gotta go hit the gym later, man.
It's like, we're just going to keep this line of talking halfway through this. We're just going to start doing push-ups.
Right, yeah.
It's like, you're right, okay.
All right, man, let's get 20 push-ups done, and then we'll start talking about the top 100.
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, you want to, oh, no, before we get to the top 100, actually, let's talk about some more bad news. So last week we talked about Daniel Johnston passing away, which we never did take a photo. We should do that.
Yeah, we do. We do need to do that for the Insta, for the gram.
Yeah. But it's not too late because So
we do it.
But the another bit of sad news. Just right after Daniel Johnston passed away, Ric Ocasek passed away from the Cars.
Yeah.
Cars mean the world to me, man.
Yeah,
they're great. They're one of those great bands that they're kind of like Cheap Trick, kind of walk the line sometimes between like regular rock band and like a new wave band.
Sure,
right?
Sure, yeah.
But incredibly influential, and he was at the center of all that.
Did you tell the City Music story on one of the episodes?
No, I've never told that story here. But I did write up a great...
Chris wrote up a good piece that kind of goes through that on that's going to be on our blog later, and it's one thing you said when we were talking about that is you were like, they have the Drive, that song.
Yeah.
You were like, it's very synthetic and it's very kind of produced, but you were like, it breaks through and it cuts through all that, and it still feels very raw and very real. And
right.
I found that album, Heartbeat City. I found that album at half price a few weeks ago, and it was only like $10, so I copped it, and I threw it on the turntable, man, and I was like, Jesus, he's right.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great, great song, and it's like, it's so raw and emotional, even though there's just the huge synthesizers in it and huge production. It's still like very, very cool.
I mean, a lot of times people will dismiss a song as saying it's too 80s, and I'm guilty of doing that.
Yeah,
sometimes.
sure.
And like Drive is a great example. Now, I think that's Benjamin Orr's song. But
is
still,
it really? Okay.
But still, I think Ric Ocasek is a part of that whole thing, right? So
Benjamin Orr, the bassist, right?
Yeah, he was the bass player. Yeah. But that particular song is so like it is. You could hear it, and if you're not paying attention to it, you could easily dismiss it as 280s.
Right.
In fact, there's probably a few car songs you could do that way. But
you might think sounds so over the top 80s.
But I love it. Like I think it's still it still works.
It's kind of like listening to Devo. Like the production value is. Like, it's definitely dated, but at the end of the day, that's not really important. It's the music that's important.
Well, I mean, Elvis is dated. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, just because something is dated doesn't mean it's not also timeless.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, at the same time.
Yeah.
That is my opinion anyway. But not everything works. I mean, we listen to, like, when we pull those 45s out of the mystery box, a lot of times we pull this, like, 80s garbage out. And you can tell, like, this is dated in the sense that it's garbage. But I don't think there's a single Cars song I've ever heard that wasn't at least acceptably good.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there may be one buried somewhere out there, but I ain't ever heard it.
Exactly.
Like, every song I've ever heard is it good to great.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that stuff is people trying to be the Cars and people trying to be Madonna and people trying to be like, let me make a knockoff version, or I'm just, incredibly influenced by Elvis Costello, so here's my take at an Elvis Costello song, and maybe I'll be the next big thing because I sound like Elvis Costello. Like, there was a time where like it was okay to do that, and it was like, I'm gonna rip somebody off and it'll be fine. And it's like,
biting? What's biting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So... good times.
But we're both pretty affected by it, and it's just sad to hear that he had passed. Also a great producer. So
incredible producer.
Yeah, produced Weezer's Blue Album, which is one of the most important albums of the 90s.
He produced Bad Brains' Rock for Light.
Holy
he produced
cow,
that
I didn't
album.
know that.
Yeah. 1983, their second album. It's crazy.
Wow.
Suicide. Let's see.
He produced, I know some tracks on Rocksteady by No Doubt, which I particularly love that album.
He produced a Bad Religion album called The Gray Race, which I think is probably their best album. Yeah, well, one of them. Guided by Voices, Do the Collapse, also him.
Yeah.
That was their album that they tried to like push into like be commercially successful. Like one of the Hold On Hope was in an episode of Scrubs and stuff. And it is really good. Like, it's a really good record. Like,
to me, Ric Ocasek's one of those guys who would be a good, like, if you're going to make an album that's commercial, but you get to work with him, worth it. You know what I mean? Like, why would you say no to that? You know, like, that would be great. So
there's also this band called Motion City Soundtrack that's kind of like, you know them? Yeah. I think they are really, really good. Like, I love that band. I think their lead singer is a really underrated songwriter. But I think their second or third album, Even If It Kills Me, he produced 5 songs on that album.
Yeah.
So,
I'm trying to remember what's the song? I'm on fire, and now
I think I'm ready to
That's the
bust a
song I think
move.
I'm-
It's
which is all right.
the future freaks me out.
Future
yeah,
Freaks Me Out.
it's
That's a
great.
pretty cool song.
Yeah, their very first album, actually. In fact, we should maybe talk about that album at some point. I think it's really, really good. But anyway, yeah, really sad.
Yeah, so just rest in peace, Rick Ocasek. Thanks for all the great music,
Yeah.
and we'll never forget your legacy.
Absolutely
and check out
not.
that piece on our Patreon if
Yeah.
you read the Patreon blog, because I kind of go into kind of a personal recollection of what Rick Ocasek means to me. So
Totally.
So let's go from that sad news to talk about 1993.
Yeah.
So we said it last time, but I want to say it again. 1993, I think, is just a fantastic year for music, and I know that I'm a bit of a bit biased because this is when I was a teenager. But I look down this chart, and I see a lot
crazy.
of good stuff. Even the bad songs are good. In a way. You know what I mean? Like, Daisy Dukes is on here, and that's
Look at
ridiculous.
them girls with the Daisy Dukes
Yeah,
on.
it's ridiculous, but it's also kind of awesome,
Yeah. Well, I looked at this chart, and the first thing I thought of was like, God, this is all hip hop, slow jams, and like grunge and alternative stuff. Oh
There's
my
some
God.
wild stuff on here,
Soul
man.
Asylum, like Billy Joel, River of Dreams.
Right. There's which I loved that song back in the day,
Yeah.
man. I mean, it's sort of one of the last. Well, I would say The River of Dreams is one of the last straight up baby boomer hit songs.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it was really at that transition point. Billy Joel basically after that album stops making music. And to
Yeah.
me, Billy Joel is kind of like the pilot fish for the baby boom generation.
Sure,
you know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah, totally.
And so when he's gone, they're gone. You
Yep,
know, and I don't
yep.
think you have a lot of Rod Stewarts in the top 40 after this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
Four Non Blondes, What's Up? That's Courtney's favorite song to karaoke.
really,
Oh my God, dude, she kills it. And we've talked about their lead singer before, how she kind of had this like reinvention as a songwriter. And I don't know how that came up before, but yeah.
yeah. Well, I think she's. I don't hate that song. That's often
don't
held
hate
up
it
as
either,
one of
yeah.
the like worst songs ever. The only thing I
Yeah.
could say about it negative really is that it just wants so hard to be like a '60s revolutionary
yeah,
song.
yeah.
I think she rhymes institution and revolution in here, which is a very like '60s thing to do.
It is,
Like she
yeah.
kind of wants to be like a Janis Joplin type.
Yeah.
and I see as a little bit. I'm not gonna say it's a pose, but it's a little bit
Yeah.
like slow your roll. But other than that, I think the melody is good. Like, why do people hate it so much? I
Yeah.
don't really get it.
I agree with you. And I think you're right. I think like the image kind of like, we look back on that video and how she was
Oh, the
dressed
big
and
hat
stuff,
and
that big
everything.
hat with the belt buckle on it. And
Yeah,
shit. And we
yeah,
were
yeah.
like, oh, that's terrible. But it's just like the thing. It's like, the song is good. It's a pretty good song.
It's- Ultimately, you judge on the song, not the
Yeah.
video. And I think,
Right.
she wrote Beautiful and a bunch of stuff on Pink's Misunderstood album, which
Yeah.
is all good. And it's like, it actually doesn't surprise me that she was a good, like she wrote some pretty good songs
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, it's just one of those things where the style let it down, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, what did I just see? Yeah, Ace of Base, All That She Wants.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I was telling Courtney we were doing 1993 for the next episode, and she was like, my album is Ace of Base, The Sign.
Yeah, I know.
So funny. She was like, yeah, can I come on and talk about that Ace of Base record? Which, now that we're in this kind of vinyl record renaissance,
I've got the sign on vinyl, by the way.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you don't really.
No, I do.
You do
Yeah,
really?
I have I bought
Sure.
it for $7 for Steph.
Oh, really?
As a kind of joke. 'Cause
Gag
she had
gift.
this album, kind of, but
Yeah.
it's kind of somewhere in between a gag gift, because I do think like the melodies on that album are kind of like, it's a catchy as hell.
Sure,
album,
sure
but
it
it's
is.
so corny. You know
It
what
is
I
so
mean?
corny,
But
yeah.
I bought it as a
Yeah.
gag for.
No, totally. But yeah, now that they're reissuing everything, it's like you can probably get that album on that record on the record. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw it at Fry's. We'll go spin it after this. Don't turn around.
He saw it at Fry's.
Yeah.
He's where you got it.
Yeah. I saw
Fry's
it there
has
and I was
weird vinyl selection. It's like,
Yeah.
and the way they have it all set up is kind of like, what the fuck is it? Dude, they have records at Target now.
Yeah, I know. I saw
so
that.
fucking
It's
weird.
like, but then it's all like Aerosmith.
Yeah, Jimi
records.
Hendrix and
Yeah.
fucking.
It's sort of aimed at that sort
Yeah.
of baby boomer,
Yeah.
early Gen X guys.
Exactly.
Who are,
and it's like also like if you're a kid and like, you heard your dad talking about Jimi Hendrix, like here's the record,
Yeah, I
here's
guess there's
Electric
a bit of that.
Ladyland
Yeah.
or whatever, and
Now here's
reissued 2 LP.
Nevermind.
Yeah, and you can get your fucking Crosley turntable right next to it. It's
Right.
like, Oh man.
Well, I mean, in a way, that's cool. Like, hey, get them buying records again. Maybe they'll go from that and they will buy something, a little bit more adventurous. Yeah. Although it's kind of hard to say that Jimi Hendrix isn't adventurous. But
yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, what else we got on here? Let's see.
There's a lot of cool stuff on here. Like, let's just kind of roll down a few of the good things that I see as I scroll down. What About Your Friends by TLC? That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That first TLC album is kind of fun. Actually.
Yeah, it's
Ooh, on the TLC tip.
Yeah, that Ain't Too Proud to Beg.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, Bad Boys theme from Cops.
Inner
that
Circle.
one maybe not so much, but
there's 2 Inner Circle songs on this list.
Do they have that Sweat song?
Sweat,
they do?
Sweat's on here too.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
dude. I told you how I went in 1993 from listening to like bad pop music to listening to alternative music.
Right.
I do remember when Bad Boys and Sweat were played on the top 40 radio,
Serious?
and I loved them.
Yeah, of course
like it was
you
so
did.
corny, but I love them. Although that song Sweat has one of the most like troubling lyrics in it, where he's like, girl, I'm gonna make you sweat till you can't sweat no more. Which to begin with means that she's probably, having a heat stroke. So you probably ought to do something.
Who can't sweat anymore? How does that work exactly?
But then he says, and when you cry out, I'm gonna push it some more. Like, geez, dude, come on, settle down.
Well, I think he's talking about when you cry out, like when you're like fucking moaning or something. Not when you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, not saying
I
stop.
suppose there's some contextual things that we need to have explained there. But.
Yeah. But I kind of feel like, come on, let her have an orange at least. Come on, man.
Let's kind of get her blood sugar up a little bit. Come on, what the hell? There's a song on Positive K, I Got a Man.
Oh yeah, what's your man got to do with me?
I told you, I'm not trying to hear that. See.
That I remember hearing that song a lot, and they did like a Coke version of that
Are you
commercial. Do you remember
serious?
that? Yeah, so it's like I said I love you, and it ain't no joke. I got a man. My man tells me all that, and it gets me a Coke.
What?
Yeah. So
that really happened.
That really happened, man. It was ridiculous.
Shit.
But
that's not surprising.
This is what I mean, though, about like these. That's a bad song, but it's a really entertaining bad song.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not
like if I saw Positive K, I Got a Man 12-inch single, I would buy that shit.
I
was telling Chris, so Courtney and I went to Waterloo on Saturday, and I found 2 $3 records that I got. Rappin' Rodney Dangerfield's rap single,
so
and
ridiculous.
Billy Ocean, Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. Both were $3, and I said I have to have both of these, and I bought them. And I found another $3 record, Candyman Knockin' Boots, which I think I might have brought up in the last episode. Yeah, and I should have bought that too, but I didn't.
I don't know what you were thinking.
I had already had like 6 records at that point, and I still think I ended up putting one back. I dropped a little jack, but it was my birthday, so I treated myself a little bit.
I'm wrong. It's the H-Town Knockin' the Boots. It's 2 episodes in a row. I'm getting them confused, but
okay, you're right. No worries.
Yeah,
no worries.
Candyman
was like that was
this.
like 88, I think 88, 89. But yeah, dude, I got a man. Fucking Positive K, man.
It's so good.
There was also a song that was kind of like I Got a Man called My Baby Daddy that would come out. Who that is my baby daddy, girl? That's just my baby daddy. It's ridiculous.
I have a vague memory of that, but yeah.
B-Rock in the Biz was the name.
B-Rock in the
B-Rock in the Biz was the name of that group. But yeah, it was ridiculous, man.
That's great. This is the height of PM Dawn, man. Looking Through Patient Eyes is on here.
I don't remember that song at all.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good one, man.
When him and KRS got into beef, I just stopped giving a shit about PM Dawn.
Oh yeah, buried their career, man.
I know.
But that song is a good one. Mm-hmm. Like. Whatever it is I do, I'll always thinking.
I'll say this: the song, the PM Dong song, the PM Dong. Oh, Jesus,
that's the.
Oh my god, it's like the Naked Gun version of PM Dong. Oh my god,
go watch PM Dong.
PM Dong.
Oh my god, we've got to have like a parody rap crew, you and me, called PM Dong.
Looking through patient dongs.
Looking through patient thighs.
Oh
no. No. Does this make it in the cut or not? I
don't know. It's going to wind up on Patreon if not.
Oh my gosh.
But no, there is a PM Dawn song called I Die Without You.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's actually a really good song.
Yeah. No, they've got about 3 or 4 of those that are good. And then you listen to the rest of the albums and it's like, where's the rest of the talent? Because you guys had like, 3 or 4 really great songs and everything else is just kind of,
Yeah. Okay. Well, and it was that movie Boomerang. I Die Without
Yeah.
You is in that song, and there's a scene in that movie where it's like it's quite possibly one of the most perfect placements of a song. It's not really that good of a movie. It's like this ensemble comedy with Eddie Murphy's like this ladies' man guy,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
John Witherspoon's in it, and but like there's this scene where they're all like Eddie Murphy and like his whole group of friends are like on top of this building, and like something on the building like lights up, and then that song starts, and it's like, holy shit, that was really good.
Yeah.
you know.
I remember this. Like, isn't there some scene with his dad or something? In
Yeah,
that movie?
John with a mushroom shirt.
Yeah, the
bam,
mushroom
bam. He keeps saying you got to coordinate. Got to coordinate. Mushroom shirt. Bam. Mushroom bam. Got to coordinate, son. Yes. And Eddie Murphy's like talking about a girl that he hooked up with, and she had big feet, and he kept saying it was hammer time in the feet. And he's talking about like, and they're like, why do you care if she's got big feet, dude? Who gives a shit? And he's like, I'm looking for perfection, man. He was like this really awful kind of fucking, like guy, like womanizing kind of cat that was just trying to like bang all these girls and like, oh, she has big feet, so I don't.
So that's
yeah. So I'm cutting her, like whatever. But anyway, all in all though, that scene in that movie and John Witherspoon are somewhat redeeming.
Yeah.
And there's also a scene of the movie CB4, which we watched that, didn't we?
No, we haven't.
We haven't
talked about watching it.
watched it.
We got to watch it.
Holy shit.
We should do it this season.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
this
we
season
will.
we'll have movie
We will.
night.
So they show it like when the CB4 album's released, and when CDs came in those huge cardboard kind
the
of
long
boxes,
boxes. Yeah.
boxes. They show a guy like going up to like a big stack of like long boxes at a music store, and he picks up the Boomerang soundtrack, puts it down, and then grabs the CB4 CD. It's so good.
That was a huge soundtrack, though.
It was,
Like,
dude. It was. So what else we got? Onyx Slam. Do you remember that
so
song?
good, man.
Yeah.
That's on Judgment Night, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
Well, they did a version. Yeah, Biohazard. The version with
Yeah.
Biohazard is on. I'm pretty sure that's on the Judgment Night soundtrack. But yeah, man, that was Onyx was yeah. That was, and it's funny because I always talk about that like DJ Vlad. That dude that does all the like interviews with old rappers, and I was telling you one day that he was interviewing Fredro Starr and the other dude from Onyx, and I can't remember. Sticky Fingers was like talking about he wanted to like have more of a rock sound, and he was like, I want shit to sound like Nirvana, man. It smells like Teen Spirit, and he was like, a lot of people don't know this, but that shit was popping in the hood. Like people were listening to Nirvana, and like and that's the thing about Nirvana is like everybody was drawn to it. Like hip hop people were drawn to that album. Like obviously rock cats were drawn to that album. Like everybody listened to that record. I heard someone say too that Nirvana like that all those songs got played on hip hop stations too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think that ever happened in Cincy, but in bigger markets,
They would play it. Yeah.
absolutely.
It was a huge cultural movement when
was.
Nirvana hit. I mean, because it was
was.
like all this stuff that had been building for 15 years under the surface finally like exploded onto the scene.
Right.
That's
Right.
for our 1991 episode probably.
Yeah,
but
probably.
man, that's a big moment, and it's carrying on right here.
Sure. And and it's funny. I mean, I guess you could say that was the first kind of inkling of rap metal in a way, but
Yeah. But a
it
good
was
example.
still
of it.
done very well. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
agree.
the problem with rap metal was execution. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like when
yeah.
Rage Against the Machine does it, nobody says, "Oh, it's rap metal."
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
it's,
yeah.
it's just when it's Limp Bizkit or something, it's like,
Korn
okay,
or
that
whatever,
shows
yeah.
it doesn't work. You know, so.
Yeah. True that.
So
Duran, Come Undone. I think
love that
that's
song.
actually a great song.
it's
yeah.
an incredible song.
Yeah.
This is so 1993. The Wedding album comes out by Duran Duran. It's a mixed bag, that album, but it has Come Undone, which I think has one of the coolest guitar tones ever on it.
Yeah, I guess it does.
That sort of wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really good. Ordinary World was also on this.
That's
which
a
is
good song,
pretty
too. That's a pretty good
ballad
song.
as well. Dude, you know what? Let me play a little bit of that Come Undone because we were
Yeah,
just talking
good idea,
about it. I
good
want you
idea.
to hear that guitar tone here too. Like for people who may not be familiar with this song, because I don't know if it still gets played or not, Like,
Oh yeah.
isn't that amazing? This crazy kind of wet sound. Like I don't know if it's an auto wah or some kind of
Yeah.
step filter, but and then it's just like big dance beat too,
The backup vocals too.
Yeah,
That's the kind of like I believe that's a woman singing, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Video's crazy.
It is so crazy. Yeah.
They've got her in like a drowning in a tank or
Yep.
something. I don't
Yep.
know.
It's so crazy. Yeah.
It's nuts. But Yeah, there was a kind of a time period here where there was a tipping point where a lot of like dance rock stuff was kind of petering out. Like the EMFs of the world aren't there, but they kind of had some better stuff that came later.
Sure,
not
sure.
EMF, but like
No, I get
Duran
what-
Duran
I
doing
get what you're
this.
saying,
I
yeah.
mean, 1993 is the year Zooropa came out. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
like crazy like experiments with mixing dance and rock in ways that are more effective than what was being done earlier in the decade. So
Well, didn't you say that like Achtung Baby was like, you could tell U2 was listening to a lot of like trip hop and acid.
yeah, you
techno
could tell they
and
were
shit,
listening to
and, like,
Nine Inch Nails and industrial music and
yeah.
all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but they just incorporated it their own way,
right,
which to me is the genius of it. They sometimes U2 gets. I mean, nowadays U2 is like the most boring band to talk about. You know what I mean? And everybody kind of hates them.
Yeah, I've actually, doing this podcast and being friends with you, I'm starting to come around on U2.
Yeah.
And I think it is really kind of unfortunate how people view them because like Achtung Baby is really fucking good. Like, I'm sorry, it's a good record.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it, but then again, why should I hate to say that? Like,
Right. I mean, if it's good, it's good. Who cares
Yeah,
who made it? You know what I
exactly.
mean? But I think
Yeah.
it's just, they were kind of the last rock band standing. So everything
Yeah.
that was bad about like bloated rock bands, it
Yeah.
was very easy to just pin to U2.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
And then they've got all their own annoying things. So I get it
Yeah.
when people are like
Right.
tired of hearing about them
Yeah.
and tired of their stupid like,
tired of Bono being sanctimonious.
yeah, and all
shit.
that. Like, I get it, but
Yeah.
I think if you go back, especially to the '90s stuff, and
Yeah.
listen to it, and it's hard to deny that it's not great.
Right,
You know?
exactly. I
It's
agree.
hard to deny that it's great. What am I
it's
trying
good
to say?
music.
It's great, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
so going back to this list, man.
Yeah.
Woot, woot, there it is.
Yep.
Makes the list.
Woot 95 South Woot, there it is. So there were two.
Well, and Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is.
at
Yeah.
two,
So I remember on the Arsenio Hall show, they had both of these bands come on and do their version of the song.
great.
They had 95 South and Tag Team. And it was, and they called it like a battle of the bands. It was ridiculous.
That
Like,
is
they're not really
amazing.
bands, but whatever. 95 South would go on. Well, 95 South would become the Quad City DJs who had that
Oh,
"Come On
right.
Ride the Train"
Yeah.
song a few years after this. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, basically, I think they just added like a couple other dudes. Basically, it's like when Miami bass went mainstream, essentially. So that's
amazing.
Yeah, I remember Kevin Moss and I always joke around about about Miami bass, and he was like, one time he was like, I got all the Miami bass on single. It's the only way. It's the only way to hear it. And then when I got the cassette player, I texted him a picture of it. I was like, Doug, I have a cassette player now. Bring all your Miami bass singles down here, and we'll fucking have a
listen to
party and listen to them.
You know one that I did have
Bring
on
your
this
fucking
single?
what's that?
7 by Prince. Do you
All
know that
seven,
one?
and we'll watch them fall.
Yeah, I love that
That's a
song.
great song,
Yeah,
dude.
I freaking love it.
That was like the artist era Prince
Yeah,
too,
it
because he
was.
had that record that had the symbol on it. I remember.
Yeah. And it's super overproduced and everything, and all, but
But in
with
an
some
awesome
world beat
Prince
stuff.
way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the record after Diamonds and Pearls, right?
I think so.
Which
yeah.
is or maybe there might have been a record in between those two, but
Let me double check. It's on the Love Symbol album. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right. So
yeah. Which Diamonds and Pearls very underrated.
Yeah,
When people
it's a
talk
great
about
album.
Prince, they don't really go right to that record, but it's real good.
there's
actually,
some great
Yeah.
stuff on that record for sure. It's got the title track.
Yeah.
Is the Most Beautiful Girl in the World on that?
Might
or is
be.
that on this one? And then Cream, of course, which I also had on cassette.
Yeah, Cream. There's a song called "Get Off" on
20
yeah,
positions
in a one night stand. That's a little.
Yeah,
I was
a
like
little
12
rough,
years old. If my mom knew I was listening to that
Yeah, it
song,
would have
it'd be
been-
like, "Holy shit!" There's an expose song on here too. I'll never get over
Yeah.
you getting over me.
Yeah, which I remember you talked about being in love with Expose, right? Like
yeah.
I remember this video and being in love with them on
totally,
here. They
totally.
were-
So there's a song called "Diddy" by Paperboy. You know that song?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know Diddy? So it's a kind of like a Miami bassy hip hop song, but see if you can find it and play it. I think it might be a song that you would know if you heard. Maybe
that's
not.
probably
Yeah.
true. Let me, because like I said, I listened to a lot of. How's it spelled? D-I.
Ditty, and Paperboy is just Paperboy. Paperboy. You don't know this?
Hold on, let me hear a little bit of this.
The 9. Well, and it's funny because he says this came out in 92, but it's on the 93 charts. This is something funky for the 9 dudes. But
I guess
this
I
song,
don't know this one.
This
but
song was
It sounds like exactly like the kind of music I was listening to.
So this song was everywhere when it came out. But what happened? So there was this like teen dance club that me and my friends used to go to in high school called Zavos.
Yeah.
Did I tell you? I've told you. I think I've talked about
this.
Zavos on the air a number of times. And it was like, it wasn't like, it was set up like a bar, but like they only served like Coke and stuff in there. Right. But like it was a time where there was no indoor smoking bans in those kinds of places, and you could smoke inside. And like there were so many like 16-year-old, 15-year-olds like smoking inside of Zavos, and it was just ridiculous. I don't know how it even existed. There were like cages that people could go and dance. Swear to God,
Go-go
dude.
cages?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. I swear to you, I'm not even making this up.
I always thought that was like a Hollywood thing, where it's like,
apparently not.
Oh, let's
Chris.
go to the club, and there's women dancing in cages, and you're like, what?
I mean,
That
like
doesn't
anybody
exist.
could go up and dance in the cages if they want to. It wasn't.
I just love you. Like you go in, you're like, oh, there's people dancing in the cage. You go in there, it's Marty dancing in the cage. You're like, yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, if I was gonna, I think I did with a girl. Like, not just that would be weird. But anyway, the Zavos playlist, the DJs that used to spin at Zavos, it was always a mix of like, so there were the hip hop songs of the day that everybody really, really dug. And then there was hip hop songs that were somewhat classic that may have been a few years old, but they still like they're still going to get butts moving. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And Diddy was one of those songs. Diddy, anytime the DJ dropped the needle on Diddy, like people were fucking into it, you know, still,
awesome.
you know, and then like Daisy Dukes, of course, which is also on this list. And then there was another song called Donkey Butt by this rapper named 12 Gauge.
I don't remember.
Give me that donkey butt and them big old legs. I ain't too proud to beg. You know that song? Oh man. So. Well, we'll listen. We don't have to play it now. We'll listen to it later because I don't think that came out this year. But it's fucking ridiculous, man. But yeah, dude, Diddy was one of those tracks, and it's just fun. You know, it's just a fun song. I actually have a 12-inch single of it, you know, and
really?
sometimes play.
I mean, I
it
like the little bit that I just heard. So
yeah,
maybe I'll recognize
it's a fun. It's a fun
thing.
song, but yeah. Fucking Zavos, man. I don't even know how that place existed and how we used to fucking go there. So we used to like drink little bottles of hard liquor in the parking lot and shit.
Really? So
well, the whole thing was like, we need to get as drunk as we can, as drunk as possible. So when we go in there, we're just already fucked up, and it's just like no big deal, you know?
Yeah.
But and you could just actually be in a bar and be drunk, but not actually be able to drink, because it was basically a bar without alcohol. It was like a dance club bar, whatever. And before it was Zavos, it was actually like an adult dance club, and it was in Westchester, so it's not like this is not something that was like downtown, or it wasn't in a part of town where there was a lot of young people and there were a lot of clubs. It was in a suburban kind of place where there were a lot of high school kids. So it actually made sense, and they were pretty successful for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, the place used to be packed, and like I remember our parents dropping us off there just being like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Like, well, and my good buddy Nick Prala, he used to live walking distance from Zavos, so we used to just walk there sometimes too.
Yeah.
And like,
the closest story that I have to that is there was kind of a teen club in Temple, Texas, when I lived in Belton, right?
Yeah.
And so we ended up there one time. I think it was like the theater group had like a cast party there.
Oh, yeah.
And so we showed up to this place, and it was not as like hip. Like you couldn't smoke there. In fact, I think it was like run by a church. So it was like really
seriously?
No, in fact, I know it was, because it threads into my story. Okay. So we're there, and you could bring your own CDs and
play
stuff.
A gig there? Oh, okay.
No, we didn't play a gig. No, we were there to like dance and stuff. And like I said, it was like part of this cast party. Mm-hmm. And we brought a They Might Be Giants record, and we wanted them to play Don't Let's Start. Now, you know that song?
I don't think I know that song.
So it's one of those, it's a They Might Be Giants thing where it's like, it's really up and peppy, but then the lyrics are really like super sad and miserable, you know? So there's like lyrics that are like, no one in the world ever gets what they want, and that is beautiful. Everyone dies frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful. Sounds really like Smith's lyrics or something, but it's really, like accordion music when you listen to it.
Right.
Well, so what's funny is like we brought it, we wanted them to play that song, and the DJ there is like, I don't know this song. Let me look at the lyrics, because he's like the Christian like gatekeeping youth group.
If it's not Michael
guy.
W. Smith, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so he's
asshole.
like reading the lyrics. And he's like, I can't play a song with these lyrics. It's a literally like the only place where it's like They Might Be Giants are too hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Good God, I don't even want to. I don't even want to. That was that place. Like the Christian teen club is the only place that you can't play They Might Be.
Yeah,
Giants.
exactly. Because of the content.
the lyrics in Birdhouse talk are Satan. They're talking
Yeah,
about Satanism
this is
if you listen to them close enough.
I did have my dad once. I was listening to a song by them called "Nothing's Gonna Change My Clothes," and it's just like it's they were just ridiculousness. Where he's singing about like, I know you're a snowman with protective rubber skin. It makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
But my dad's like, turn this shit off. This is about rubbers. He thought it was literally a song, and I was like, Dad, no, it's really not. It's just a ridiculous song.
So it's funny you should say that because there is a song called Informer by Snow on this chart. And this guy, Adam Hill, that I live down the street from, his dad was like a vice principal at a high school or a junior high or something. Not the one we went to, the Sycamore, which was a different kind of part of town than we lived in. His mom thought that he was saying, "I like your boobies, yeah," in that song.
I like your boobies,
I like
yeah.
your boobies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's exactly what. And he's saying like a licky boom boom down or something. God,
Yeah.
now that's when
Pretty
we picked,
ridiculous.
and when I first looked at this list, I said it's going to be really hard to pick a least favorite song on here, but maybe not.
Well, it's interesting because this does have a lot of songs that I think are kind of, like I said, bad, but not too bad. Songs that are maybe hard to defend if someone wanted to go hard in the paint against them. Because it's got like, I'm going to be 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. I love that song.
Yeah,
if
it's
someone
an alright
says
song.
that's corny, I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it
You're
is,
right.
but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's not. I don't hate it. I agree.
Now, one that I've come on the other side of, Mr. Wendell by
Arrested Development?
Arrested Development.
Yeah.
At the time, I remember really liking this song.
Yeah.
And then I tried to listen to it a while back, and I was like, this is actually kind of horrible. It's like, what did they...
Well, I mean, it was like him like hanging out with a homeless guy, basically.
Right. But it ends up being kind of like, he's like, Mr. Wendell has tried to warn us about our ways. We don't hear him talk. But he has this line where it's like, blacks spend all your money on big colleges till most of y'all come out confused.
Yeah.
Almost like, okay, you're going hard against education now.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Like
A little bit.
like he's saying, oh, you should all be homeless like Mr. Wendell. What?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I don't remember that lyric actually. I
Yeah.
just remember him saying like, he gives me some knowledge, I'll buy him some shoes. Like,
Yeah.
whatever,
But it's like, I don't know. Like I listen to it and it sounds like it's just, to be honest, the line there is most of y'all come out confused, but the lyrics to Mr. Wendell seem kind of confused.
Well, and the
actually.
melodies sound like they were played on like shitty Casio keyboards that you
Yeah.
bought at Kmart for $60 too. Like
Yeah.
it's so the production is so cornball.
I've mentioned this before, but like on the Tribe episode,
Yeah.
but I think like at this time I really liked Arrested Development a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I thought they were Tribe. And
Yeah.
once I actually heard the real Tribe, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what Tribe was is what I thought Arrested Development was.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've
Like,
told me that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole record is actually really good.
There are some good-
They have that like they have one of the songs. They have a song called "Raining Revolution," and one of the lyrics is "His eyes were as hard as a million tombstones." Like that's a really good line.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Like it's amazing. And
There's a track on there called "You" where he's like rapping really
Yeah,
fast.
yeah.
And like that's one of the few like I can do from beginning
Right.
to end. I'm not
Right.
going to do it right now, but I
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah. I haven't listened to that album in a long time. So
it's been a little while since I listened. I listened to it like 5 years ago, and I was I left a little depressed because it wasn't as good as I
Right.
thought it was.
Right.
But I do think like Tennessee is really good. I think You's pretty good. I think Mama's Always on Stage is okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Raining Revolution's good.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
old
all right.
guy that used to sit on a rocking chair when they
Baba
played
OJ,
live.
is
Yeah,
it?
he recently passed away, which I was kind of surprised that he was still
Yeah, I was
alive
about
because
to
he
say,
was
'cause he
fucking
was-
old when they were playing Lollapalooza in the '90s and shit. But good. I mean, he sounds like he had a real long, awesome life. So good for him.
Yeah.
But a lot of hip hop on this list. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we have 3 huge hip hop songs on here. We have 2 songs from The Chronic, Nothing But a G Thing, and
Dre Day.
yeah. And then Ice Cube, Check Yourself, which was probably my favorite hip hop song this year.
Yeah.
So you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself
yourself,
because
yeah.
I come real stealth. I'm bad for your health. Ice Cube is really not a lot of people think of him as a really good rapper now because he's kind of multi-level
Daddy
now
Daycare
and
and everything, yeah.
he's done a lot of stuff and as far as being an actor but he was a great rapper.
He was
still
a great
still is a
rapper,
great
yeah.
rapper. Yeah. So
I don't think anybody should question that.
no,
You know what I
no.
mean? Like, also, Was a Good Day is on here too. So,
yes, all very good. Both very good songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't even have to use my AK, Chris. So there's a some blogger. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago. He used all the clues in "It Was a Good Day" by Ice Cube to actually pinpoint when the actual good day was.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah. And it was like, because beepers were commercially sold in the Los Angeles area between this year, and the Lakers beat the Supersonics 3 different times. And it was only one of those was a sunny day in LA based on the weather. And it's like, fuck, that's good.
That's
like,
so,
why didn't I think of that? You know, like,
we got to find something else like that. And we'll just like make our name on that. We'll put it on the blog. We'll figure that out.
Good idea. Good idea.
Anything on here that's just crap? There's a couple of things on here that I think probably.
I'm gonna be honest. I might be. This might be a hot take, controversial opinion, but I fucking hate the Rod Stewart songs on here. Have I told you lately? I just it makes me want to fucking.
I love
stab
that
my ears
song
out.
because it's a Van Morrison song.
Sure,
but the Rod Stewart version.
Well,
is
and
trash.
he does the whole fucking like, have I told you lately that I like the labored, like I'm gonna like make these big dramatic pauses in between how I sing, and
and then at the very end, like
Jesus.
ease my troubles. Yeah, that's what you do. Yeah, and it's almost like I don't know, like he might as well be singing in the damn Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah,
ease my troubles.
Yeah. I wish Rod Stewart would have stayed like the Faces, like early 70s, like Maggie May era and the Faces. Like, I wish he could have just stayed like that.
Me too.
And like been.
I don't think you're alone there. I think, everybody on earth wishes that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Rod Stewart, I saw him on a list once of like most wasted talents. And
Really?
Yeah. Like, and I've never been able to get that out of my head.
That's not really, but.
No, I mean, well, I think so. I mean, I kind of agree with that because, he sang Maggie May,
Yeah.
He sang, I wish that I knew what I know now. Like
That's
like,
a great fucking song.
It is a great song.
Oh my God.
And it's like to go from that to like, Rod Stewart's American Songbook. It's just what a fucking bore.
Yeah, all of a sudden
I mean?
you're a crooner. Like, well, not all of a sudden, but still. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's not happening to me. So, a couple of things that I want to throw out before we start talking about what's the best and worst.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned, isn't the Whole New World on here?
Yeah, Peebo Bryson. Yeah, Aladdin. This is Aladdin soundtrack, right?
Yeah, which I think it works in the context of that album.
Sure.
This was a time period where like a hit song on a Disney movie would become a hit song in real life, like some cover of it or something.
Yeah, totally.
That's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like that Frozen movie that came out a few years back.
I guess
all the songs on that soundtrack were fucking huge. But I think that's kind of like a kind of misnomer, so to speak. Like, I don't think that still happens that way.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think A Whole New World is a good enough song that it should be on this list. I think it's just kind of weird. And the cover is cheesy in the extreme.
Yeah. So, do you remember Ugly Kid Joe?
Yes.
Their cover of Cats in the Cradle is on here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The child arrives. That's another one of those. It's like overwrought the way he sings.
Oh,
it and
totally. And it's like,
boy, it's just like me.
Yeah, he's trying to do it like he's fucking Motley Crue or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why Nirvana had to happen, folks, is because of crap like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Shit, what else?
Oh, Tony is on here. If I Had No Loot,
great song.
Absolutely
Agreed.
great song. Tony is kind of, I think, Raphael Sadiq, like people, I think they've got good reputation, but I do feel like for as big as they were at the time, more people should know about Tony than they do.
Well, Raphael Sadiq has a pretty good solo career.
I know, that's what I mean, but I mean,
but I know what
you don't hear people talk about Tony.
You don't be like, man, that Tony records, those were great. They don't talk about him like they do Prince or something. Which,
right, exactly.
He's kind of that kind of guy in a way. Raphael, he's a really good songwriter. Really good, knows his way around melodies really well, and definitely has like a signature kind of sound and groove to him. But I think I might have. We don't have to talk about this, but because there's a couple other songs I wanted to talk about on here. But Diggable Planets, Rebirth of the Slick, Cool Like That.
Yeah,
another great hip hop song. They recently reissued that album on vinyl, and I picked it up, and it's really it's been a while since I listened to that record, but it's really great.
Yeah,
it's kind of ahead of its time too.
Yeah, you were playing a little bit for me, like because I remember like Diggable Planets. That record was everywhere, and like I was an Arrested Development fan, and Diggable Planets was kind of like. I always kind of associated them similarly, and but I didn't get into that record, and I kind of regret it because I think it was probably pretty good. So
and if you don't know, Butterfly from Diggable Planets went on to be in a group called Shabazz Palaces that kind of started around the 2010s, and they have like 3 records, and they're all 3 or 4 records, and they're all real good.
Awesome.
Really different stuff too. Really kind of minimal, like a lot of space. It's like not what you would think, but it's awesome stuff. So
Okay, I'm going to pick my least favorite song on here.
do it.
How do you talk to an angel?
That's what
by
I
the
was
Heights?
gonna say.
Beat
Shit.
you to it, brother.
Oh my God. I remember slow dancing with my first girlfriend to that song.
Yeah.
In which that doesn't even make me like think it's a good song either. If that tells you.
Yeah, that tells you. Yeah, it's it's like it's so like I listened to it the other day because Steph and I were talking about something related to like 90210 or whatever because it was like it was like its own TV show where they were trying to do like
the Heights.
The Heights were a band, but they were like a band that hung out with the 90210.
It kind of it seemed like they were kind of like the Jonas Brothers or something before that's the kind of shit they were doing. But
it was so weird because those bands like that, like it's so clearly it's a boy band, but then like somebody can kind of strum a guitar, so then they I don't know.
No, you're right. Somebody can kind of strum a guitar.
It's just such garbage. I'll tell you one story that I do have with that. So my roommate in college, had a songwriting class, and he was like trying to write a song, and he wanted some help with it because I was already a songwriter, and he didn't really play instruments. He was a singer, and I was like, okay, well, I'll help you write your song. What do what vibe are you going for? And he was like, "How Do You Talk Like an Angel" by the Heights. That's my favorite song. And I was like, okay.
Good fucking God.
This is
How old were you?
Hard.
You were in college?
I was in college. I was like 22 years old or so.
Some
21 years old.
20-year-old wanted to write a song like
How Do You Talk to an Angel in like 1999, 2000,
Are
something
you
like that.
fucking serious?
Yeah, it was like, okay. And
Dude, it
we
was
wrote
a
a song.
TV show band. It was like saying your biggest influence is Josie and the Pussycats
Yeah.
or something. Like, you fucking serious, man? Like, oh God, that's awful.
Yeah. So that's my least favorite song on here.
Well, that's what I was going to pick, but that's okay. It's certainly okay to pick that one. My least favorite song, let's see. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
I'm going through this list expecting to see something bad, but it's all like Ice Cube, Mary J. Blige, Tupac, it's Escape, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I found one though. Hold on. Angel by John Cicada.
John Cicada was huge that year.
I know,
man. That's one of those guys who blew up and then just disappeared.
Yeah. And actually there is a terrible DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince song on here called Boom Shake the Room.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's so bad. And it's like they tried to put a record out after they did the show, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show called Code Red, and this one was on it, and it's just fucking awful. Like, it's just this last gasp kind of deal. Like, let's try to squeeze a little more out of the DJ Jazzy and Fresh Prince brand, and it's not very good.
From a hip hop standpoint, because in '93 you were like all in, right? Like, how did you feel about DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince? Did you feel they were like, that was kind of a cool thing that's just kind of run its course?
At that point, I was like, it's bullshit. Yeah, because I mean, once it was like Dre and Ice Cube and all that stuff, that was just so much cooler and so much more. It's like, looking back on like Fresh Prince, those records like And in This Corner, like I've talked about it before, like that Summertime record, he's or whatever. It was cool when you were a kid, but like, once gangster rap came out and once like, East Coast, West Coast, once you heard Nas and once you heard all that stuff, it was
it's not Stand Up Next to Rakim.
No, of course not. It's like cornball, like pop music. It's
like
almost
the
like
Chipmunks
it's almost like a marketing exercise in a way, you know? Like I said, that home-based record that has Summertime on it, that's still a great song and that endures, I think, and we'll be listening to that song for years to come. But like the other songs on that album are so like, there's a couple of songs where he tries to be serious and it's just so stupid. And
it just doesn't work. Right?
And like he has a really bad song on the album before it called Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble. And it's just like, it's so bad, man. Like put it in the context of the kind of the times we're living in today. And
is that the one that has like the
I Dream of Jeannie? Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in 20 years.
And to his credit, he has a track that's done by a female rapper on that same album called Guys Ain't Nothing But Trouble. So he kind of like, he hedges
bet.
He hedges it, and he's like, all right, I'll give the girls a chance to rebut this argument, whatever. So that was kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, it's like, come on, man. But yeah, no, it was just all corny.
Anytime a girl gives you the play, just remember my rhymes and get the
hell away. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in forever.
Yeah,
that is terrible.
It's pretty troublesome when you look back on it. It's like, holy shit, man. toxic masculinity and a cheap, corny hip hop song. Yeah. Holy fuck. Anyway, so I think the John Cicada song and Boom Shake the Room might have a double duty as my least favorite song on this list. And then do you want to do a favorite song next?
Yeah. Although I haven't decided really. It's really, man. I have Turn It Loose is on here, which is I love En Vogue so much.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That is a great song.
That's my favorite. Go ahead. You got a favorite?
Ice Cube, Check Yourself.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
That's a good choice.
That's the song I listened to probably the most this year. So great song. I remember being at Golden Skates, which was the place we hung out, the roller rink. It's the place we hung out before there was Zavos. It's kind of funny because like junior high, you hung out at the roller rink, and then for some reason, like beginning the sophomore year of high school, you started to hang out at Zavos. And hanging out at the roller rink, I remember I was like rapping some lyrics from Check Yourself, and other dude started rapping it along with me, and then we became friends, and then I ended up dating this girl that was a friend of his, I think, for a little while, which was interesting. Yes, it was kind of weird because she lived kind of far away from me, so it was like one of those like we never saw each other and just talked on the phone kind of thing, like because she went to Princeton, which was the school district that was in Cincinnati proper, Hamilton County, because we were right on the county line, Butler and Hamilton. So like I was in the Lakota school district and she was in Princeton schools. So like that county line, even though we probably lived like 2.5 miles away from each other, but it still somehow felt like it was like another world. It's so weird. Yeah. But yeah.
You know what? I think I am going to say Give It Up, Turn It Loose is my favorite on here.
That's
I love
En Vogue.
En
Vogue's fantastic.
That's on Funky Divas, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What a great record, man.
Yeah. And I told you, I saw them live and I didn't know what to expect, and they just fucking brought the house down. It was incredible, at an outside venue at a music festival. En Vogue can still fucking do it, man. But
I gotta say though, like this is one of the best lists that we've ever seen. I think, like I said, the songs that are bad
might even be the best.
Yeah, I mean, it very well might be. 63 is kind of hard to beat, but 63 has some cornball crap on it that's even worse than this. But like I said, I think the main thing is that even like the worst songs on this list, like, and I Could Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That by Meatloaf. I mean, it's still too funny to hate. You know what I mean? Same thing with we got Two Princesses on here.
What is love? Hadaway? What is love?
What is love? I mean,
Baby, don't hurt me.
This is so stupid. Even that Heights song, you can laugh while you're singing it. It's not like a Limp Bizkit song where you're just mad and you want it turned off. You know what I mean? It's just like
if I hear break stuff one more fucking time, Jesus,
I'm going to start breaking stuff. Although I did see an article on Woodstock. No, I think it's going to be a movie on Woodstock '99
podcast.
Oh, it's a podcast.
The Ringer did a podcast, but it's on that like podcast network that you have to pay for, which whatever. But
how do we get on that? Just kidding.
Yes, seriously. Just kidding.
But they called it Break Stuff, and I was like,
it's called Break Stuff.
That's the perfect thing for Woodstock '99.
Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll talk about Woodstock '99 one of these days. But so I think we did pretty good, man.
Yeah,
great list. 93, great year, guys. Check it out.
Great year for the chats.
Yeah.
For the Dracanoa.
We haven't put one together yet, but we need to put together a playlist for 93.
Yeah,
because
we will.
It will be freaking.
It'll be packed with bangers,
100
man.
songs.
You kidding me?
So let's move on. We'll talk about my pick.
Yeah, why don't we talk about the album you picked for this year, Chris?
Let me start by doing a callback to last week's episode.
Sure.
You asked if the Wu-Tang album was like the most important, the best album of '93, total, right? And I think it's an odds-on favorite, but there is one album that I think competes with it, and I didn't pick it for my album of the year, but I want to talk about it, and that's In Utero by Nirvana.
Yeah,
I think if this is kind of goes back to what I'm starting to call the Abbey Road rule, which is when we did the 1969 episode, I said hey, Abbey Road is the best album of 1969, I think, bar none. But I don't want to talk about it because it's probably something we're going to address at some point in the future on an anthology episode.
Right.
I think that was the Beatles. I think that's true with Nirvana too. Nirvana has 5 albums. All of them are essential albums. We could pick them for every year they came out. And so I think it's best to save In Utero for that because you don't want to knock one of the most important Nirvana albums out of the discussion next time, right?
Yeah.
So So if you're keeping track at home, that means, In Utero is my pick. And in fact, you and I, if you consider In Utero my pick initially, it was the fastest we ever decided on albums for a year.
Yeah,
I said 1993, and you said Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
And I was like, In Utero. Like literally
Right.
within...
It was a reflex.
It was just a reflex. We both
Totally.
knew. And then we started thinking about it, and we're like, how do we want to handle Nirvana? And then I kind of talked myself out of it.
Yeah, we distilled it a little bit and, kind of said, okay, maybe we go a different direction.
Right.
If you would have picked In Utero, it would have been fine, but...
Me too.
I think there's... How do I say this? There's kind of and I think both of us are kind of this mindset. It's like, let's talk about things that are interesting, but things that people may not know about. I don't know. We can over-explain Nirvana, and we will do that in an anthology episode one day for sure. But yeah, I think your pick is. I really like your pick actually.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what I would say about that is I don't feel any obligation not to pick a popular album. You know what I mean? Like if there's something that if I want to talk about Led Zeppelin 4 or something, then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like if that's the album. But I think there are situations where that just doesn't make sense, and I think this is one of them, where it's like, let's save that for the dedicated episode, because this gives us a chance to talk about another album that's a little less traveled, right?
Right.
So when I was thinking of albums for 93, like there's a ton of them. Bjork's debut is so good. Like I said, U2's Europa is an incredibly important album to me, especially the title track off of that is so good. Kerosene Hat by Cracker. Like I seriously considered that one, which is a kind of a dark horse pick, but it was a big hit in its time. But I ended up settling on an album that meant a lot. It means a lot to me personally, and it's one of the more obscure albums that we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
From a band that you either know them and love them, or you just never heard of them before.
Right.
And this album, I'll even go so far as to say, our theme music for this podcast is directly inspired by my love for this album.
For this album.
For this, this album in particular. Not just the band, but this album in particular.
Sure.
So let's hear a little bit of it and we'll talk about it. Oh, those ripping guitars.
It's so good, man.
Play it loud, folks. That is the mighty Superchunk and their 1993 record, On the Mouth.
On the Mouth.
I listen to this forever.
Very descending guitar work, amazing.
You can hear the DNA in our theme music on that right away, man.
Sure.
So that was From the Curve.
From the Curve, okay.
Yeah.
Second song.
The second song on the album, and every song on this is great.
Yeah.
And I was just really excited to get to talk about Superchunk, what they mean, indie rock from the 90s, and this album in particular, and how I got to fall in love with it. So, so Superchunk. I'm sure a lot of you guys are scratching your heads right now. Who the hell is Superchunk?
Yeah.
You know,
Who are
they're
these
not,
guys.
Yeah, this is, and this, I want to say it's not an exercise in picking the most obscure band I can think of. You know, Superchunk, though, if you're a lover of indie rock from the 90s, Superchunk's one of the heavyweights. They're on the Mount Rushmore of 90s indie albums. But
absolutely.
But the rest of people don't really know it, and that may be by design a little bit, because Superchunk is also a band that kind of actively fought against being well known or anything.
You can even hear it in the production, some of the production choices too. Yeah. I feel like I don't know if you would agree with that, Chris, but
100%.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about it a little bit. But talk to me before I dig into like why I picked this. Yeah. What was your thoughts when I said, "Okay, On the Mouth, that's my choice"?
Well, the first thing I thought of was it's not a Superchunk album I'd heard before, and I'm not a huge Superchunk fan, but I all the albums of theirs that I heard I love. Like the first Superchunk album I heard was Majesty Shredding, which would have been like 2010. So I didn't get it. I was very late in the game. Well, you talked about not hearing Enter the Wu-Tang for a while. That was me with Superchunk. And Majesty Shredding is a really, really great record. It's kind of like a comeback album for them, from what I understand. But then I got into No Pocky for Kitty, and I got into Foolish, which are two of their early albums as well, which On the Mouth, kind of resides somewhere in between those two. So I was actually really excited to listen to this album. As soon as I actually pressed play, I was like, this is a Chris album all the way, man. Like this has his name written all over it.
You told me that, and I wanted to ask you about that. So what was it? I'm just curious.
The first couple like beginning riffs of Precision Auto, I was like, that sounds like Chris, man. It's just like 90s, like heavy like rockist focused indie music. Like it wasn't like Yo La Tengo or Pavement or some shit like that, which nothing against those bands, but it was like, it was indie rock, but it was like rock and muscular. Yeah, totally like heavy muscular riffs and that kind of thing.
Let's hear a little bit of Precision Auto real quick, just so you can hear that, and then I want to follow up on what you
Sure.
Oh my gosh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's almost the Toadies, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that I never got over that those feedback squeals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in my own music, I still put that kind of stuff in it.
Yeah.
So you can hear the kind of guitar we're talking about here. But yeah, so your thoughts on that?
It sounds kind of like, so the first thing I thought of is like, it sounds kind of like 90s era Epitaph Records, Bad Religion, that kind of the Pennywise, those kinds of bands in a way. And I actually did more research, and I found out that this album was recorded at West Beach Recorders, where all of those bands recorded their first albums. So,
and recorded by the guy from Rocket from the Crypt.
Yeah,
so,
John Rice, Reese or Rice, or however you want to say that. Yeah,
I've read his name for years, but I never heard anyone say it.
He's in the documentary. So Epitaph Records has this like mini documentary that they did. They released a DVD with all of like the music videos from the bands they had out, and they had this like mini documentary about Epitaph and how it started, and it's really good. But he's in it, and he talks about West Beach Recorders and all the bands that recorded there and stuff, and how like he'd known them since they were kids, now they're adults, whatever. But yeah, that had to have, because I don't get that feeling when I listen to Foolish or No Pocky. I think those are very indie forward albums and rely heavily on kind of some different production choices, I feel like. And that's the one thing I really like about On the Mouth is it's like it's a different kind of approach to production for them, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, it is in some ways, some of the choices that they typically make are a little extreme on this album, like the vocal style.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, and I think this is, we'll get into that in a second, but let's talk about how I came to know this album.
Yeah, sure thing.
So I came into a very circuitous route to knowing about Superchunk. So I mentioned They Might Be Giants earlier. I had a girlfriend around 93, 94 who was really into They Might Be Giants. And so I became really into They Might Be Giants through her, right? Yeah. And she was a super fan. They Might Be Giants used to do a thing where they had a dial a song and you would call, they still do it actually. You can just call a number in Brooklyn and there you get an answering machine and they play a song. Oh, it's really hilarious, but also really great, because it's just a regular call. One person can listen at a time. It's very like lo-fi, and they play demos of stuff they're working on. So that's you can hear stuff that ends up on the album, the next album or whatever, like months ahead of time.
So back in like 2011 or something, there was this thing going around like that called Call and Oates. And you called a number and it was this girl that was like, "Hello, thank you for calling Call and Oates. To hear Rich Girl, press 1.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like Maneater, press 3. It's pretty good.
That is really funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
They started this service in like 1986 or something.
Okay.
And if you know anything about They Might Be Giants, there's a guy in the band named John Flansburgh, and he is very much like a kind of forward-thinking guy. We're always trying to find some like weird angle to like produce music or distribute music or something. And that was one of their ideas. And I remember listening to it, and one of their other ideas in 93, 94 was to put out a magazine that was all on a CD. And basically what he was doing was producing EPs with some of his friends in the indie rock circles and just sending them out like once a month. And so I'm listening to Dial a Song and he's kind of talking about it.
This is Flansburgh.
Flansburgh does this, right. And Linnell was involved as well, like as an artist on this like faux record label. But the idea was really just to, I don't know exactly the entire concept, but it seems like the concept was like, hey, let's just take demos and stuff that we're working on and then just offer almost like a CD by mail service. Again, looking for a creative way to distribute music. And one of the things, he was naming off the list of people who were signed to this project. And it's like John Linnell and all these different people. And he says, Mac from Superchunk. And I'm like, Superchunk?
Who the fuck is that?
This? He seems to assume I know who Superchunk is, therefore would know who Mac is from Superchunk, And that was it. Like, there's some reference to it. Well, then my girlfriend got that. And got the record, and it was the Portastatic record, the first like Portastatic demos, which is Mac's side project.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so then, we're like, okay, we're kind of aware of this guy or whatever. Right. And then I'm in a bar, like in a disc jockey, I think in the Temple Mall, and they've got a bunch of cassettes. And I'm looking through it, and a copy of On the Mouth by Superchunk is there for $1
On cassette.
on cassette. So I was like, oh, cool. Like Mac is in that band. You know, like I don't know
Yeah.
anything about Superchunk, but I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, they've got some association
Right.
with They Might Be Giants.
Right.
And I knew the Portastatic.
Yeah,
demo.
might be cool. Let's check it out.
Let's check it out. I pulled that out. I think I pulled out a Young Fresh Fellows Electric Bird Digest and another one. Oh, the Buster Poindexter Hot Hot.
Oh God.
So I went 2 for 3 on that one, you know, like 2 really good albums. But this On the Mouth I became obsessed with in about 94, 95 and just listened to it constantly. Listened to it on cassette.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of interesting how growing up, it seems like to me anyway, and maybe it was like this in Ohio, I don't know, but growing up in West Texas or wherever you were at, it's like, you know, all the shit, all the things everybody thought was shit was actually good. It's like, I don't want Superchunk On the Mouth. Here, I'll sell it to some kid for $1, and then it ends up becoming like your favorite album. You know?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. You know what I mean?
right.
Like you weren't seeing any George Strait records. in the cutout
like
bin,
yeah,
but-
you're going to pay full price for Guns N' Roses and Van Halen and Motley Crue, but
Right.
you know, Superchunk and Pavement and that stuff's too weird. Nobody's going to want that except for you or except whoever. You know,
Yeah, I'm just going to fish it out, and there it is. It was in a way, you know, really. I mean, really lucky.
Yeah,
you know that
for
they
sure.
didn't know what they had. You know, or that there was no market for it where it was at.
And I think I want to say something that I wrote down here is that, like, you know, the vocals are recorded really low.
Right.
And it's almost like the production choices are essentially saying, like, we don't want this to be successful. A lot of people, I don't think, really understood, and I didn't understand this until way later, is like, you know, our ears have been trained to actually, you know, figure out like subconsciously what production cues are and what things are supposed to sound like, you know? So, you know, people would pop this in, people who are traditionally listening to like, you know, the meat and potatoes fucking metal or whatever, they'll put this album on and they'll be like, yeah, it's really heavy, but can't understand what the fuck the guy's saying. The vocals are recorded too low, you know, or like, or even just that, you know?
It's a deal breaker for so many people. I've tried to turn on to this album. I was even Steph. I was like, Steph, I asked her the other day, I was like, you know, I've listened to On the Mouth. Like it's never really been out of rotation for me since 1993.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a big
like,
part of your life.
This is just an album that I always go back to, and I've tried to get her into it, and she's like, "I like it, but I can never understand what's going on in the song." And here's the thing: like the vocals are pushed way, way back on every track, and it's like you said, I think it's a deliberate kind of anti-production choice in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's always been she's not alone. So many people just don't. And Superchunk always does this, but I think it's kind of extreme on this album. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is. Because, I mean, you know, as they went on, they like Majesty Shredding is produced pretty well, and everything is kind of, you know, mixed according to plan and according to how you would normally hear it. But yeah, it reminded me of, you know, the band Sugar, Bob Mold's like post Husker Du band.
Yeah.
They have an album called File Under Easy Listening that's produced a
I know that.
lot like this. Like the vocals are really, really low, and the guitars are just huge and sweeping and stuff and descending, like a lot like this. It's not as fast as some of the songs on this album, but same kind of choices. I feel like.
Right.
So.
But I think it ties into something else that people need to know about Superchunk was that they were aggressively independent independent artists to the point where, so this album comes out. So if you don't know, if you ever heard of Merge Records, Merge is the label that Superchunk started.
Yeah,
you know?
basically.
And so the first few Superchunk albums are all, you know, produced by Merge, but released by Matador.
Matador, yeah.
And Matador, one of the greatest indie albums or indie labels of all time. You know, like incredible. You know, Pavement comes off of Matador, and you know, eventually like Interpol is released on Matador. I mean, they still have
Yo La Tango.
you know, great stable of great artists. But to point out to the independent spirit of Superchunk, they used Matador for distribution. But then when Matador was snapped up by Atlantic, you know, Superchunk just left.
Yeah.
So here you've got one of the greatest indie labels of all time, but the moment that a major buys them out, Superchunk's gone and just does everything through Merge from there on out. So they aggressively did not want, you know, major label interest. They aggressively did not want mainstream interest.
Right.
And say what you will about that. I would say that, you know, the production choice to push the vocals back are partly a symptom of that. like a symptom of their lack of interest in like mainstream success.
Do you think that was do you think that was subconscious, or do you think that was a conscious decision?
I think it was a conscious decision. Really? I mean, I can't speak for it. I've never seen him say that.
It could have almost just be like a thing where it's like, yeah, we just recorded the album and, we mixed it the way we thought it sounded like we thought it sounded good, and we just felt like that was our final product, and turns out that it actually, the vocals were really low. But anyway, sorry, that was kind of a tangent there. But
No, that's exactly right. I don't think it was an accident. I don't think it was like this. It was a deliberate aesthetic choice. And I think to me, I feel the opposite about it from what Steph feels about it. Steph is like, this makes it impenetrable for me.
Right.
I find it mysterious.
Sure.
Like I find myself leaning in to be like, what are they singing about?
What is this all about, really?
Right. Let's hear a little bit of a song, because we haven't heard any of the lyrics yet, and that kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. Let's hear a little bit of Mower. Mm-hmm. Those guitars all throughout this album.
Right. And they're kind of stacked on top of each other, but it's like, it still sounds very clear and concentrated, Like, you can tell there's probably a good 5 or 6 guitar tracks in this song.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Listen to how those vocals are pushed back, though. You can barely hear them, but if you pay attention, there's great songwriting on this album. It's not like they're pushed back because they don't matter. The lyric, they have a very specific like songwriting sensibility and everything.
Yeah.
Like that song, it's very 90s in a way, because in the 90s we were coming off an era of music, really for most of pop music, but where we were coming off an era where just very straightforward love songs were all that sold and everything. And in the 90s, there's a reaction against that. And so the lyrics were very poetic. They were ambiguous. They didn't always make literal sense.
Right.
And here you have a song about a guy who runs over a bird's nest with a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And then he kind of gets crushed by what he's done. And that seems to be all the song's about, really.
Yeah. So A$AP Rock has a song. It kind of reminded me of this. Just a brief tangent here. Let me find the name of the A$AP album. But he has this song, and each verse is a different story about his childhood. And one of the verses is talking about how it was like his friends. He was at his friend's or his brother's Little League game. Both verses are about experiences with him and his brothers, and one of them is about him and his brothers. He's at his brother's Little League game, and like a gopher pops up in the outfield, and one of the coaches comes out and just like kills the gopher incredibly violently, kills the gopher, and then the gopher's dead, and everything just continues on, and everybody goes back to playing baseball. Like Pops plays live whack-a-mole is the lyric he says, and it's like, but it's kind of funny, but it's kind of like, well, why were we just mauling the fuck out of that animal, and then why did we think that was okay to just keep playing baseball after that? And that kind of reminds me. That song kind of reminds me of that song a little bit too. But
I mean, it's a good there's some real like philosophical questions you can raise about that. Philosophical questions in here. This case, it seems like it's an accident. And yet it's sort of. I don't know. It's a poetic situation. There is a similarity here to some. I was trying to like place where Superchunk fits into like punk rock, and like in terms of bands like, you remember we did the Jets to Brazil episode, and we were talking about Jawbreaker and stuff, how there's like a lot of poetic situations talked about in a very straightforward way.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that on Superchunk too, and I'm wondering, I don't know if Superchunk came out of like the Fugazi post-hardcore.
I was gonna say that because like, you always hear in like the punk circles is like, well, Fugazi and Ian MacKaye, and he started Discord Records, and he started his own record label, but he wasn't the only one to do that. There was this example with Mac and Superchunk with Merge, and Merge would go on to like put out the Arcade Fire and stuff, and
Neutral Milk Hotel.
Yeah, a lot of important music, So for those of you that are wondering too, let me just aside real quick. The song is called Blood Sandwich, and it's on the album The Impossible Kid by A$AP Rock. And Yeah, and,
I gotta check
Man
it out.
plays
I love
live
Ace.
whack-a-mole in a scene that would try every child as adults. Paul Bearer with a ball mitt thrown over the fence. Coach hit the bench. Both teams lose. Good game, good game. Granny yelling, "Go Cubs!" Cubs ain't playing. So yeah, it's a good song. But anyway, had to do that aside real quick. But in any event,
But going back to like my point about the lyrics is that they're pushed back, but they're not pushed back because there's any embarrassment about them.
right?
So
No,
that's
yeah,
why it feels
it's
like
not a self-conscious
deliberate
thing.
choice.
Yeah,
You know
like
what I mean?
Mac's voice is really cool.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's kind of high, but like not in a weird way. You know,
Yeah, and I really do think that if this had been mixed differently, not even the performances any different, but just mixed differently, it probably would be one of those albums that people would, oh yeah, I know that one song. I know Package Thief. Yeah, I remember when Package Thief was played on the radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet, it's not. It's an album that was, it did exactly what you would think an album that's mixed this way would do. It kind of went out and the people who seek out this kind of thing found it. But that was it, basically. It
Yeah,
didn't
and I
have
mean,
a long life.
these bands and these people that were making music then, they were concerned about making music. They weren't concerned about like who their audience was or if they're going to get played on the radio or like what kind of marketing strategy do we have and that kind of thing. It was all just like the music was the most important thing, and anything that comes after that is just kind of icing on the cake. It's just kind of nice to have it. Oh, we have 100 people at our show. That's cool. You know, like, whatever. I mean, ultimately, if you're a musician and if you're in a band the caliber of Superchunk, yeah, you want that to be your career or whatever. You want that to, be your life, But this band and a lot of other bands of this ilk that came out around this time weren't really concerned with commercial success. They were just concerned with playing good music,
Right.
And,
But I will say this, there is something strange about like 93 as a point in time for rock like this, because a lot of bands that had been independent spirited in the 80s were now the biggest bands in the world, like the REMs of the world,
That's
the
true.
U2s of the
Even
world,
like the Replacements.
Nirvana.
Yeah.
Like there were bands that had gone out and like, dodged the mainstream for years that then became great, huge world-shaking acts. Soundgarden is on some little label called Sub Pop, and then eventually, boom, they're releasing the biggest album in the world a couple of years later. But there was this whole other class of artists like Pavement, like a lot of the guys on Matador. Yola Tango's a great example. Helium, that were just stayed indie. And like didn't Sebadoh or whatever, they weren't trying to be like, they didn't sign to major labels necessarily, and they didn't try to have big hit songs. And sometimes I wonder if Superchunk, like if On the Mouth was mixed differently, would it be just some album that people are like, yeah, I remember that one song. You know what I mean? Like kind of like if they had just been like the Letters to Cleo of 1993. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's completely possible that would have been the case. And in a way, I think it would make this album a little less good.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, having said that, I want to say something about that. This album, even among Superchunk fans, is not considered their like best album.
Yeah.
Right? I think No Pocky and Foolish are referenced a lot more.
As far as their
On the
early
Mouth.
work goes, yeah.
Right.
I think that's true.
And I love those albums too. Every now and then I get down to, Skip Steps 1 and 3 and whatever, off of No Pocky.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff. And
Cast
Foolish,
Iron is
I
really
hadn't
good,
listened to
yeah.
as much, but I listened to it more recently and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Like I could imagine if I had discovered this album instead, I would have loved it just as much. But for some reason, this is one of those bands where I found one album that I'm just obsessed with and I just never got over.
Yeah.
So I don't know the rest of their catalog the way I know this album. And it's kind of a strange choice among Superchunk fans. I was even looking at recent set lists, like, because Superchunk still goes out and plays sometimes. And I'm like, what do they play off of? Do they play anything off of On the Mouth? And they really don't.
Yeah.
Like every now and
I've
then.
seen them live. Yeah.
Package Thief will come out, they'll play that, but it's they're not playing, I guess I remembered it wrong or whatever on their sets. And it kind of breaks my heart because to me, I think this is such a classic album.
Yeah. I saw them a while, like probably 2013. They played Fun Fest one year, and they played like a night show at the Mohawk, and I saw that.
I was going to go to that show, but
Really?
there was some reason. It may have been right around the time Evie was born or something. Like I couldn't make it happen or whatever. And I was real mad, but
and it was a good show, but they didn't play. They only played like an hour. I mean, I don't know I think they had like a headlining set on one of the stages at Fun. So I think it was known that they weren't going to play that long because they were going to play the next night, the big outdoor show. And that was cool. But yeah, they played Cast Iron. They played Skip Steps 1 and 3. They played a bunch of stuff from Majesty Shredding. And I don't remember them playing it. I didn't know this album at the time that well. So they might have played Precision Auto.
Yeah.
I feel like I do remember hearing that song. But then again, I could be wrong. It was
Which
five
that
years
has
ago.
like the most hilarious lyrics.
Yeah.
Do not pass me just to slow down.
Right. Do not pass me, just to slow down. But it sounds cool. I feel like Mac could be singing about Oscar the Grouch and still make it sound awesome.
I think that's
you know,
kind of
like
true.
that's
Yeah.
this. You know, I don't know. He's one of the few guys that can really pull off having a high voice. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the few male singers that can really do it well.
I think partly because he can. Maybe it's partly it's how it's mixed too, though. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't get strident or anything.
Right,
It's kind of
yeah.
back there, and you're just kind of hearing it underneath
Sure.
this like wash of guitar.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit of Package Thief, just because this is a track that, like, I remember seeing this on Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually do a thing where they're talking about Package Thief, and the video is really hilarious. I don't know if have you seen it with the marionettes?
No.
You have to look for
I
it.
haven't seen it.
I haven't seen the clip in a very long time, the Beavis and Butthead clip, but they've got a bunch of marionette puppets and stuff. But to me, this guitar here is just total like 90s alternative rock guitar, and I just love it. I think it could have been it could have been Green Day a year earlier probably, but it was just mixed differently.
Oh yeah, this is a great song.
That snare, that is such a like 90s hard driving kind of thing.
What is it? What song is this?
Package Thief.
Package Thief. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Kind of a song that's relevant today because it's all about someone stealing all the packages that come to his house or whatever. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
you
that
know.
happens all the time today.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you play New Low?
Yeah,
Play
absolutely.
that song real quick.
Now that, you're talking about the Bad Religion thing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
very much sounds
Totally.
like a Bad Religion type thing.
Yeah. Give it another moment or two. I want to. Hold on. So this song, I feel like this song, if there was going to be a song from this album that could have been played on the radio, it would be this song.
You think it's New
I
Low?
feel like the mix is really clean on this song as far as vocals and everything goes.
I could see it.
I feel like there's more space on this song than the other ones. Like the guitars give a little bit more space for the vocals. And
Yeah.
the only thing wrong with this mix is the bass. I feel like the bass is recorded a little weird.
Yeah.
But for what they're trying to do, it's fine, you know. But
Yeah, that's, I never really thought of it that way. I love this whole, it's one of those things where I'm so close to it as just a kind of a fan of the album as a whole.
oh, and that's not a diss either.
No,
Like,
I know it's
yeah.
not, but I think I never really thought of like this as a single, but now that I'm listening to it, I'm like, yeah. I think it is actually a pretty good choice.
Well, because it has that kind of really cool guitar work at the beginning before the lyrics kick
Yeah.
in. And it's very kind of almost like thematic in a way that a lot of rock songs got played on the radio were back
Yeah.
then, you know.
We are reaching a new lows, real easy like lyrics
Exactly,
to grab onto
exactly,
or whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah.
even the do 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 is
The
not
melody
that
is-
far off
yeah.
from Basket Case or
Sure,
something. You know
sure,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
pretty hard driving and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, man, I'm coming around to your line of thinking really fast
Cool.
on that one.
That's good.
What did you think of I Guess I Remembered It Wrong? It kind of starts, it's one of the few appearances of acoustic guitar on this.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's another one of those songs that kind of gives a little bit more space for other stuff to happen, opens it up a little bit. I think that's the one thing they're really good at doing on this album. They're like, they're coming out with crazy rockers, but then they're kind of opening it up later in the album to make some other things happen and put some other cards on the table, And
Yeah.
I guess I Remembered It Wrong is the first song where they kind of do that, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And it kind of kicks off side two. So,
Exactly. Yeah,
I think
for
that
sure.
kind of makes sense. I want to hear it. You want to hear now, I will say, if someone wants to take a shot at this album, one shot you can say is that it's not a multi-dimensional album. It's very much like while you're right, there's some dimensions in it, but it's all within this sort of hard driving rock context.
Sure.
Listen to how much acoustic guitar you get on this album just by listening to the intro to I Guess I Remembered It Wrong.
Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah. Okay, you get about
that's it.
that's it. You
get,
get about, that's the only piece you get,
Yeah.
is what they say.
Right.
I love the sound of those. I
do
think
too.
they're probably octaves that he's playing right there. They sound really good.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, going back to like thematic stuff, you know, like a song where it sounds like he's talking about remembering a car crash incorrectly, and it's got it's ambiguous. He's, you know, I know there is no way it could have happened that way, but there is no way it could have happened any other way.
Yeah.
I guess I remember it wrong. I think that my memory's strong, but whatever you say, and I love the ambiguity of that, because he's saying whatever you say, and whatever you say, like it almost seems like he's saying I'm probably right. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah.
But I guess I remembered it wrong.
Right.
Whatever you say, you know, like or. You know, if you look at the actual content of the lyrics, maybe he is admitting that he's remembered it wrong. I just like the way the song sort of has this built-in ambiguity. You know,
kind of like when we were talking about Big Star 13, and you were like, you know, there could be something to this, you know, to how he says, "And I'll take you." It's kind of similar to that. I feel like,
where it's like kind of both interpretations are kind of valid, and it kind of fits the nature of the song.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to play that song a lot when I was mad.
Oh,
you know
really?
What I mean? Yeah,
I guess I remembered it wrong.
Yeah. It's one of those songs that can calm me down really easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think maybe because of that ambiguity, like if someone's made me angry, you know, it's kind of like, okay, you know, like this can make me feel like I don't know, it captures that feeling of being, or feeling, I don't know, like someone else is challenging you, and you're just like, okay, you know, like I'm just gonna resign myself to not being right here, whether I think I'm right or not, you know. So I don't know. I think there's a lot, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is that the song, you know, you can hear the lyrics are completely buried in all of this wash of guitar, and yet there's still a lot of nuggets in there that are worth grabbing. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really good stuff, man. Really good stuff. I always listen to Wilco Sky Blue Sky if I'm angry. That's the album that calms me down. Yeah,
I've just been turned on to that recently.
It's a good one
by James Rawson.
Yeah,
which I should say, just kind of as a sidebar, one other thing that happened this week, I saw Stereolab.
That's right.
James took me to see Stereolab.
Oh, it was you and James. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So he had an extra ticket. Unfortunately, his wife wasn't able to go, and he was just like, "Who do I know who would enjoy Stereolab?"
Yeah.
And he thought of me. So we got to go see that.
Yeah, because Courtney was looking through her Facebook, and she was like, "Chris is at a show at the Mohawk." I'm like, "Oh, really? Like, who's he seeing?" And she's like, "I don't know." And then I looked at you, and I was like, "Oh, he's seeing Stereolab," and Courtney didn't know that was a band.
Oh, really?
No.
Aww.
Yeah,
that's adorable.
Yeah, I know, right?
She's so young.
Yeah.
Stereolab was great. You know, it was so good. But
didn't someone from that original lineup of that band like pass away? Yeah, died in like a motorcycle accident or something.
I don't know the cause of death, but she so it's one of the singers is passed away.
Terrible.
But they still worked really great as the way that they did it.
That's good.
But you do miss some of the harmonies.
Yeah,
you know, but it's all right. You know, so definitely if Stereolab's coming around, they're legends, and you know, like kind of.
Get that Emperor Tomato Ketchup record.
Yeah. So good.
Dots and loops. It's a good one too. Yeah. But anyway.
Okay. So I don't know if I have a whole lot more that I want to say here, other than that I do feel like this side B does open up a lot. I like how, you know, I mean, every song on this is just something that I love. The question is how fast. The way that Flawless and The Only Piece That You Get go into each other.
Yeah.
Did you? Let's hear that.
I don't know if I heard that, but
listen to the way these two.
I really like
dovetail.
The Only Piece That You Get. Like,
it's a great album closer, one of the best. Listen to Flawless. So just to give you an idea, listen to how Flawless starts. I mean, it is a basher, right?
Yeah.
So listen to how this dovetails into The Only Piece That You Get. It's one of these songs where it's almost like one big song.
Right.
God, those guitars are so beautiful. Like this is what I love about the electric guitar. It's his ability to just have this noise that's just gorgeous, and it's sort of both energetic and wistful and terrifying, and I don't know how to describe it. You know, it's sort of
it can
distorted.
Be pounding and heavy, and it can be evocative and kind of mood setting and droney. It's just it's great.
And I love that it doesn't sound like electronic. Each one of these hits doesn't sound exactly like the last one.
Right,
you know?
right.
The feedback isn't exactly the same.
Sure.
And there's the other instance of acoustic guitar on the album.
And it's just almost like another track that's kind of not brought up in the mix. I mean, enough for you to hear it, but
yeah, just there for rhythmic purposes.
Sure,
basically.
sure.
So, yeah, it's a great closer.
I didn't realize how those two kind of mashed into each other either. That's really neat. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's not, bands do that. It's not like, oh, this is a wholly original idea, but it's a really effective version of that. Flawless is one of the heaviest rockers on the whole thing, and then to have that sort of explode into this.
Right.
And it's not too wistful, the only piece that you get. You know what I mean? Even the lyrics are kind of a little aggressive for, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but I don't know, it's emotional, and I think it really works without overdoing it.
Right.
You know?
Right. I agree.
So, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about is just how it influenced me so much as a musician. And I don't, really want to play a bunch of my own stuff on the podcast. Don't worry, this is not the beginning of like Chris tries out demos on people or whatever. But I think it's important to this podcast because I mentioned it earlier. The title or the podcast theme music, it comes from a track that I designed specifically as a tribute to Superchunk and this album.
Really? I knew you were influenced by Superchunk on that song, but I didn't know you made it as a tribute to them.
Yeah, I made it like deliberately as like hey, I want to tribute my love for On the Mouth. Basically.
Really?
Yeah, it was written basically when I was working on my album, there was kind of a hole in it where I was listening to it where I felt like it was missing. It was the last song that I wrote for the album, and I was like, it's missing like a driving rock song. And I'd been listening to On the Mouth as I always am, and then I was like, man, I would love to do something like that.
Right.
And then I wrote it and recorded it, and then when we were looking for music to be the theme music for the podcast, I pulled that out, and I was like, Marty, what do you think of this? And you were like, I love it.
I was like, it's great, man. It's so cool. I love all the production choices that you made in that song.
I mean, it does end with a synth line, which would not be in a Superchunk song,
but still, it works. Yeah,
yeah. But I want to play a little bit of it. I want you to hear the melody choice and the way I produced it. And it's not. This is not the final mix version of it because that will come out in 2025 or something. It's taking me so long to get there. Yeah, but listen to kind of how I do this, and I just want you to hear me pretending to be Superchunk.
Yeah. Oh wow! Yeah. The guitar is totally Superchunk. Yeah.
Even though the melody,
and the way you're singing too, it sounds like Mac.
Yeah. Let's get to the chorus here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's not. Look. It's not as good as Superchunk. It's not as good as On the Mouth. But I just want to give you guys an idea of how seriously I love this album. That when I was producing my own album, I decided, man, I need something with that feel, and that's the closest I got. To,
pretty close, man. Pretty good.
So great record. And again, I just want to emphasize it's not a record that even among Superchunk fans is often talked about. But I don't care.
And that's why I like that you picked this album.
Yeah. Well, I felt like when I was kind of holding the sort of the albums in my hand, that I'm like, which one of these do I want to pick? And it's like In Utero is such a great album, but it's like, man, nobody knows On the Mouth. And this is an album that I've lived with for 25 years at this point. You know, like some people need to hear this. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, totally, man.
So I hope you guys will check it out. It's a great indie rock record that has maybe been a little overlooked. Yeah. But do yourself a favor and check it out.
Check it out. Yeah, I would agree.
All right, Marty. Well, that's guys. All I got.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I will say this, though, before we leave you for the episode. Superchunk is still active, and if you're completely new to Superchunk and you really liked this conversation and you liked what you heard musically from them, they have like almost 10 albums. I think they released an album last year called "What a Time to Be Alive." That's very good. And then Majesty Shredding came out in 2010, and I think that album's real good too. But yeah, they have extensive catalog, lots of different stuff. So check out all their stuff if you can. Definitely check out On the Mouth too, because it's a really great record. Yeah.
And then go track down all Merge Records stuff.
Yeah.
That's another part. We didn't talk too much about the kind of their importance as just tenacious indie rock, visionaries, but some of the best music that's been produced over the last 20 years.
Yeah, local Austin band, A Giant Dog, if you know them, they're on Merge. They're awesome. You should really check them out. You'd probably like them a lot. Yeah. But But in any case, thanks again, guys, for listening. And we will, as always, catch you on the flip. Be on the lookout.